So as a preface to that lecture, I would like to say that it's my debut as a lecture speaker. So I'm not ready yet to give you recipes on how to, treat design or make it or think about it. But I will really try to recreate the experience I passed through and talk about the context that surrounds me. So my first studies have taught me two very important things, at least I find them very important. First thing is that design it doesn't have to be, but it can be conceptual. And we spend lots of time doing research to prove to ourselves that the concept we came up with is actually worth executing. And I still try to uphold to that approach. And the second thing, funny to say, but the second thing is to be responsible, because I was very irresponsible during my first studies. And over time, this has evolved from a complex to a skill, and a very nice skill. And the reason why I'm saying this is because this lecture is called Great Struggles. And I'm strongly convinced that struggles are great and we need to appreciate them. So I will start with the earliest challenges and finish at the very latest ones. That's me. So before I go into this intimate topic, I'm just going to introduce myself once again. I'm this buzzword of the year an interdisciplinary designer who does graphic design, exhibition design, product design, web design, and aside from all of that, photography. And in 2016, I graduated from Britannica. And currently I do my master degree also in graphic design in Universität für angewandte Kunst Wien in Vienna. And I work as a freelancer. I also have this classical working experience in the office, but the projects that I'm going to show today are mostly self-initiated or freelancing ones. So I was always photographing, but I've never really felt like a photographer, mostly because on a daily basis, I do not work with photography on a, let's say, conceptual level. And most of the time I use it as a tool to intuitively capture an object, a person, movement, or an accident that I really find unique. And I think the second reason why I photograph is to capture compositions, because it seems to me that this constant search for compositions in real life really helps me and helped me a lot to train my eye and later apply it to my designs. And I always unconsciously try to make the photo composition near perfect, and some people say that I'm just boring. It's also a fair point, but I attribute it to my intention to shoot an object itself and not an image of it. So photography for me really serves as this tool that narrows down the world around to the size of your own habitat. And I really asked myself many times, why do I need these artifacts? Why do I collect them? And I think this is being done in order to collect the memories of made decisions, because I think they really show us who we are and how we treat the environment. And I've also noticed that with time, a camera became an integral part of my process of seeing things. I know that stalking people is illegal, but I also do it because sometimes I find characters that I just can't stand. So I do photograph people in the public transport for my personal collection. And this is the book 36. It was also some kind of a self-initiated project that I've produced for myself and for others. And it contains 36 photographs of mine. And it's called 36 because it's the average number on the film, on a single film. It's quite obvious, but I wanted to keep it simple and just focus on the content. Yeah, now we are finished with the context part. And now we come to the project. I really love this project and it's going to be published soon. And I hope other people also enjoy it. Now we are working on it, so it's not finished yet, but yeah, I hope it's going to be available soon. Half a year ago, I came up with an idea which, in my opinion, could only work within one medium. And its execution sounded completely unrealistic because I was completely not familiar with this medium. And I'm talking about a film, and not just a fiction film. A fiction film is not easier, but still, but a mockumentary that needs to be witty, critical, realistic to reach its goal. And I was really scared to mess up, but I had a strong faith in an idea, so we continued. At first, it was a joke, but then it turned into, in my opinion, a strong critical comment that also makes you laugh sometimes. So I will now read a bit. The documentary Better Not portrays a designer who is defying all norms. Not is what we all can call a successful creative professional, living off his work for big brands and companies, whilst not losing his moral authority. His unconventional approach sparks interest, but also skepticism. He doesn't do design, but he calls himself a designer. Not manages to navigate the corporate world as no other, putting happiness first. Not's philosophy is also inspired by anti-capitalist movement and the growth. In today's woke society, rarely anybody dares to admit that every single of us is changing this mechanism of our neoliberal dystopia, where our individual acts are just fake acts of goodwill. So what we've tried to do with this film, we've tried to build an absurd but very realistic character whose ideology is beautiful in its impossibility. Because nowadays ethics became the core topic for a debate, and speakers on the stage are always trying to grasp completely ethical in their work without actually changing the system. So we say, if you want to be ethical in design, just don't do it. And Not is the one who illustrates this true refusal to compromise. In the film, our main hero is constantly asked, doesn't design imply design? And he just answered, design isn't just a physical matter, and that's true. Yeah, and our main character, Not, he's absurd once again, but he's very consistent. He wears a craftsman apron, he works in a completely empty studio, and he tells his clients that the color does not matter because there won't be any colors. And he also scoffs when people are just, they're asking him, yeah, but why you have been paid for what you've done? He's ironical. And a short film that we have produced also includes, it includes slight introduction into the current situation in design, an interview with Not, and a small room tour in Not's studio. And we also paid attention to the gender roles, obviously. So the guru is a man and the interviewer is a woman. We tried to be ironical about everything. And two main characters in our film represent two different epochs. Current times, it's the interviewer, and future. And now I will show you a rough cut of an introduction to the film. Yeah, let's start.
It is the year 2020. The profession of a designer is to create value for brands and to raise the impact of individual products. The turnover of creation and production that we see today is going incredibly fast. Corporations, art students, and even yoga teachers are constantly making new logos, ad campaigns, fall, winter, spring, pre-spring, and cruise collections. There appear to be millions of startups, brand new services, greenwashing campaigns, performative alley ships, and fridge magnets with Jeff Bezos. Unspoken rule is, corporate values have to change in order to reach people and lull them in with beautiful stories. Although frankly, they mostly help us to sleep well at the height of a climate crisis. So instead of actually changing product values, businesses change design to prove the newness. So the only value that's actually being created is design, and that's just damn fake. And yes, designers depend on a system, on clients and companies by default. They are guests invited to create a beautiful illusion. Except those designers, of course, who build self-initiated and cool critical practices, but I mean, even they're not saints. Designers need to create, otherwise they do not feel complete. And yes, that is a vicious circle. And you probably ask, how can one design ethically if capitalism is so ruthless? Well, radically speaking, to not design and getting paid for that sounds ridiculous, right? But is it really?
Yeah. Then let's continue with the next part. The next medium I would like to talk about is kind of product design and exhibition design. The project I will show right now was 99% made via Zoom. And I think I owe the success of that project to my team, which has taken on a part of my work, such as touching samples and sometimes even choosing between them, because without material object in front of you, you don't sufficiently feel the dimensions. So yeah, and during the pandemic, I don't think I need to explain why it was so. I was always very fascinated with exhibition design because it is a very complex discipline. It combines in itself curatorship, graphic design, product design, and architecture. And one day I was lucky enough to try my hand at it. The gallery Shaltai Editions, who specializes in limited edition art, every year produces an archive that contains 9 art pieces. And when the artists are already picked by the curator, the gallery calls me and asks to design an object within which all these artworks will be stored. And then I'm producing it together with a construction engineer, and meanwhile make graphic design for it. It's a very long process, so I need to explain how it works. While an archive is being manufactured, I work on an exhibition space where all the artworks are displayed together with an archive. And this project literally takes half a year of your life, and it didn't really scare me. And I did it twice so far. The process of creating each of this archive is quite unique because you create an object which has no analog. And the core topic of the recent edition of NATI 3 it is the short name of it, was narrative. And the project team gives you enough freedom to interpret the topic the way you want. And it's very charming because I personally adore freedom, and I think it's kind of my biggest weakness. And we created a construction which can be completely taken apart. It has an aluminum base, where you twist 4 screws. Then comes 9 folders in different sizes that you place on these screws. They're made out of plexiglass and are covered with a small percentage of white ink, so it blurs an artwork underneath. And each folder is held together with magnets. On top of this construction is placed a folder with a booklet and gloves. And then when you placed everything, you can just tie the nuts and the object is going to be fixed. In this specific object, you can only take the bottom layer if you take out other folders, and it was done on purpose because I wanted the viewer to go through it and check every part of it. The names of the artists are placed in different angles, so all of them are visible when everything is in place. Many people were saying that this shape reminds them of a ziggurat, and it somehow goes in line with my fondness for architecture. But I just wanted to point out that the shape was following my desire to keep the original size of each artwork. Every year, as I said, we also create the space where everything is shown. And the space also follows an idea of difference and uniformization. All the projects are shown on one-size panels, but differently arranged on them. And this choice of typographic solution also allowed me to easily apply it to different surfaces and medium. We also created 2 books for this project. Now you see one of them. Yeah, that's how the project was displayed, many different, yeah. And the brochure that we create, it basically serves as a tool that helps you to understand the structure of a project and get the overview of everything that have been produced. Yeah, and now we are coming to another problematic topic, because before I produced NATI 3, I have produced NATI 2. And back then I was a complete newbie in this field and I have done nothing like this before. So due to my sincere desire to work on that project, I've tried to gather, all my theoretical knowledge to make it happen. And I truly believe that this, poppy type of slogan, like fake it till you make it, has a right to exist. But yeah, my clients back then didn't know about it. The second volume of the archive was held under the theme of very important message. And one of the first associations that came into my mind was a black suitcase the symbol of a secret weapon that everyone chases in spy movies. But I didn't want to just appropriate the already existing strong symbol, but use alike design principles. Usually, due to the safety reasons, an important object is drawn in a niche that follows its shape, and the niche is buried in a suitcase. So yeah, and in my designs, a niche is filled with artworks, and the placement, yeah, sorry, too fast a bit, but yeah, that's how it looked from the outside. You could also easily transport it. Yeah, and in my case, the placement of the booklet and gloves and handles also followed the same principle. We also produced envelopes for each. Yeah, that's how it was displayed on the exhibition. So you could see the envelope when it's closed, when it's open, and the folder itself. In this specific project, they were 10 art pieces, and each of them were stored in such folder envelopes. So while I was working on the project that I'm gonna show, I had just moved to Vienna and I was full of doubt. And I was strongly convinced that my graphic design language and its monotony do not really meet the needs of my concepts. And it felt like my ideas and my graphics just lived two separate lives and did not reinforce each other. So I started to consume more and more visual information that was not in line with my, let's say, stylistic preferences. And it was a very important exercise for me because over time I started to become more and more open to other graphic languages and much more sensible to them. And I didn't start just to, you know, accept them, but also understand the inner logic behind them. This corporate identity has been made together with Ela Miletic, and she is also a graphic designer. And this specific project lasted for 4 weeks and was made with a person I literally saw for the first time, but it was a great collaboration, very thankful for that. Museumsquartier is one of the largest museum districts in Europe. And its territory is inhabited by fine art museums, dancing halls, architectural museums, and cultural centers for kids. And, you know, MQ combines different worldviews, histories, and missions, but it still has a common territory, borders, and its own government. So we try to imagine this place as if it is a new state, because it has all the attributes that are needed for that purpose. And we didn't want to stick to one specific symbol. So we created a 3D one, which is recognizable from different angles. And in comparison to the never-changing national flag, we wanted our symbol to be constantly changed. And the core element for our campaign became a slogan. Here we showed 3 of them. It says, that's why it doesn't. Sorry, it for some reason doesn't move. Let's try again. Yeah. Yeah, so we created flags, but in our universe, it was more of a series of posters. The summer, this is the booklet that we also have produced for it. The only one mock-up in my presentation. And the summer campaign also followed the same principle. So it says no flag. Yeah, no need to explain, I guess. And the winter campaign, we during the winter there was an election in Austria, so we also wrote no agenda on the winter campaign for that project. The problem that I have discussed self-reflection process, and I had many struggles with finding bold, bright, and energetic graphic language. So as a way out of this situation, I started to use photography as a medium for storytelling. And at the beginning, it was a certain path to salvation, but then I realized how many possibilities this tool actually gives me. And I became a big fan of this absurd, incomprehensible stage type of photographs, which makes you curious, but you don't fully understand what is the message behind them. And then comes the project that somehow follows that concept, I hope. This series of posters was made for Angewandte, my current university, and dedicated to Angewandte Festival, which takes place every year, and the students are allowed to show their work there to the viewers. And this series of posters was made also together with Ayla Miletic, and we decided to portray this event as if it's a real festival, full of energy, drive, and fans who cry, scream, and try to reach their idols. For that, we built on that kind of the same atmosphere. There was no drugs involved, but the moment when we were shooting it, yeah, I still remember it pretty good. This poster series was also another concept for Angewandte Festival, and we just decided to make fun of this stupid New Year glasses that everyone are wearing, but make it very serious and make it very designish. Then comes another poster series that was dedicated to Mark Damm's lecture in our university. He's an Austrian graphic designer. And once in his lecture, he said that design for him is an abstract, diverse, ephemeral substance that you interact with. So I decided to take this metaphor as a base for the poster series. Another poster series is made for Dusselaer, who is a singer. And it is quite old, but it is still dear to my heart, because I was It was my first experience as a stylist, but not a person who just, chooses clothes, but a person who creates an image of a singer. And from time to time, Lucia does concerts in collaboration with a pianist, and so we wanted to make a series of photographs that show that they are kind of fans of each other, so they have each other's portraits on the walls. This is just a series of posters that we were doing from time to time. There was no any specific idea behind it, but we at least tried to always do an interesting shooting for it. And this series was made for her concert program dedicated to Nina Simone, and we just tried to stylistically interpret it in our own manner. The next struggle is, and the last struggle, is my interaction with websites. Because within the topic of websites, I really wanted to talk about educational problems. Web design is such a young discipline that it's not yet, in my opinion, well integrated into a studying process. And with website design, I had to go through the same kind of, educational experience I went through with graphic design. I had to look through tons of examples to figure out which possibilities I, as a designer, have in case of user interaction. And it is a very tricky discipline because you have this limited amount of space, but completely endless amount of design principles that you can apply. And while looking at other examples, you're really widening your horizons and learn a lot from others. And it feels like web design nowadays is, a big educational process in which all designers are participating simultaneously. And by stealing, modifying, recreating other people's interfaces, we somehow try to explore this enormous amount of possibilities. I will show you now two websites that I have recently produced and explain the context behind them. For some reason, one second, I'm trying to reach my browser, but yeah. This is a website which is almost finished and going to be published soon. My friend have created a very interesting type of business. It is a art tours agency. And the problem that I have with most of the websites is that I don't really see the faces of those who have made that business or service or something else. And here we decided to show all the faces who are behind the scenes. And on that website, you can read information about each guide. We photographed them in blur, so you can, at the first glance, only see the artwork behind them because they are art guides. So it's an effect that works with every person. Yeah, and the faces of the creators are not blurred. It's also me. Yeah, this is one website that we have created so far. Another one, unfortunately, was not fully created, but I still like it because it was a very long, interesting project of trying to, I was really trying to grasp what the client really needed. It's a website called Cветnik, and it is an aggregator of fine arts, a very specific type of fine arts. And the language they wanted to use also needed to be very specific. So we had lots of arguments and meetings, but that was one of the latest versions of the website that we have created. It's also not the full prototype, but just for you to...
Excuse me, but we only see the presentation. We can't see the
okay,
websites.
okay. Oh, wow, that's... that's
yeah, it's just a bit confusing.
Okay, let's try to... okay, I think I need to... So the previous thing, I guess you also didn't see, right?
Yeah. I wrote in the chat to check if anyone has the same issue, and it turned out that, yeah, no one can see it as well.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay, just once again, it is Art Tours and Comms Agency, which is called What. It's a Russian word that you probably know. That means that something is coming, it's just coming. As I said, we try to show the faces of all the people who participate in that project, of each art guide, and they're shooted next to the artworks, and the first impression you get is from the artwork, not from the person. We also left unblurred the creators of that service. It's also me and the photographer with who we made the website. Then I will show another website, which was, as I said, it was not fully executed, but it was the latest prototype that we had. And it was, as I said, it was full of attempts to understand each other and create a visual language that fits the art that they are collecting. It has different, that's a bit complicated to interact with it. Yeah. The last thing that I would like to say is why I pointed out all these struggles I had, because I really started to think that when you go through all of them, you become much more stronger as a designer if you have a capability to analyze yourself properly and afterwards change it.